For 50 years, the greatest magic trick in human financial history was performed in plain sight. We convinced the entire world to trade the very blood of modern civilization, the energy that powers cities, industries, and armies, for pieces of paper that cost absolutely nothing to produce. It is 2026, and the magic has run out. Welcome back to the Silent Vault. If you have followed our investigation through the 1929 mirror and the sovereign exit, you already know the system is drowning in debt. But today, we look at the foundation, the geopolitical floor beneath the house of cards. Today, we observe the end of the petrodollar, and why its death guarantees that the debt collapse cannot be stopped. To understand the collapse, you must first understand the architecture of the illusion. In 1971, the United States closed the gold window. The dollar was backed by nothing. By all laws of sound money, the currency should have entered a hyper-inflationary death spiral right then. But the architects of the system found a new backing. Not gold, but oil. In 1974, a silent agreement was forged in the sands of the Middle East. Saudi Arabia, and subsequently OPEC, agreed to price and trade their oil exclusively in US dollars. In exchange, they received military protection. This was the birth of the petrodollar system. It was an act of financial alchemy. Suddenly, every nation on earth, whether they liked the United States or not, needed US dollars to buy the energy required to survive. This created an infinite, artificial, global demand for American paper. For half a century, the United States didn't just export technology or agriculture. It exported its inflation. It could print trillions, run massive deficits, and issue endless treasury bonds because the world was forced to absorb them just to keep their lights on. It was a brilliant system, as long as the world agreed to the terms. But an empire built on an artificial anchor only survives as long as it has absolute leverage. Look at the macro patterns of 2026. The geopolitical tectonic plates have shifted. The BRICS nations have expanded. A multipolar world has emerged, and the weaponization of the financial system, the freezing of sovereign reserves, sent a clear, terrifying signal to the East. If you hold your wealth in their paper, your wealth is only a permission. The response was inevitable. The silent agreement of 1974 is dead. Major oil producers are now settling energy trades in local currencies, in bilateral swaps, and most importantly, in gold. The petrodollar is no longer a monopoly, it is a leaking ship. When energy is no longer priced exclusively in dollars, the global, mandatory demand for American debt vanishes. The anchor has been cut. This brings us to the mathematical terror of the present moment. We call it the Boomerang Effect. For 50 years, the US printed dollars and shipped them overseas in exchange for real goods and real energy. Those dollars stayed overseas, held in central bank reserves, artificially suppressing inflation at home. But what happens when the world no longer needs those dollars to buy oil? They sell them. They dump US treasuries. They buy gold. Imagine 50 years of exported inflation, suddenly catching a flight back to the mainland. Trillions of digitized dollars, rushing home to chase a finite supply of domestic goods. At the exact same time, the US government is running multi-trillion-dollar deficits. They need to sell more debt than ever before, but the foreign buyers have left the auction. Who buys the debt when the petrodollar dies? The Federal Reserve. They become the buyer of last resort. They must print the money to buy the debt that no one else wants. This is the definition of a debt spiral. It is the transition from creeping inflation to a hyperinflationary shock. You can print $1 trillion with a keystroke, but you cannot print a single barrel of oil. You cannot print a single ounce of gold. The transition from a unipolar debt system to a multipolar commodity-backed system is not a theory for the future. It is happening in the shadows of 2026. The mainstream media will distract you with politics, with temporary market rallies, and with noise. They will not tell you that the foundation has cracked. But the observer sees the macro pattern. When the paper empire unwinds, capital will ruthlessly seek the truth. It will flee the fragile architecture of fiat and migrate into the solid, unprintable reality of hard assets. Gold, silver, sovereign, decentralized wealth. The petrodollar era is over. The reset is here. If your wealth is tied to the old anchor, it will sink with the ship. The window to reposition yourself is closing. Exit the system, enter the vault.